There, this is the contrast. Because of the contrast adjustment, you got to go back at saturation and lower that amount. Okay. All right, so from this point, I got saturation at 11 using the properties in AMCAP. AMCAP controls the final image. It has brightness, contrast, hue, saturation, and sharpness. Basically, what we want to do is, you know, depending the scope you have, the F ratio you're using, bar low or not, this AMCAP properties needs to be adjusted. What I'm going to do is start back at default. This is what it looks like. This is default in AMCAP. Now, if you pay attention here, I'm not touching the camera at all. I already preset the camera one way and do the final adjustments. So the first thing we want to do is bring the saturation, which is at 32 by default. I'd say to bring down about 18 or so. 16, 18. This is the starting point. Okay, and of course we want to bring the brightness down. And we got some clouds moving in. Look at that. Okay, I would lower the saturation some more down to 13. You don't want to have colors over bleeding. You do need to see the black details in there, that you see the darker area. If you don't, this is going to be the result. It's just those details are no longer darker black type of thing. It's just blends in with the orange. So just lower that saturation way, way, way down. And then using to hue, you get to the default 62 in a hue, so that'll change the color, the overall color. If I go to 127, full right, it looks green, and full left, it's going to look like calcium K just about, but not quite. So at 62 is our default, and we need to peak or adjust that hue in order to pinpoint what is the camera sensor best color range pretty well. No two cameras are alike. Alright, I would say this is fairly close depending on your eyes. You could go a little bit more yellow, a little bit more orange. I think we're pretty good here. And then we go to contrast. So contrast will make things brighter. We don't want to lose that prominence on top. And lower the brightness, because we've done that. The saturation point has become much stronger, so we're going to have to go from 13 down to probably 10 or so, 2, 8, 9. There you go. I'm down to 9. Oh, this is 11 at the moment. So adjust that saturation. Now that we got something that's okay, go back to brightness. You see the background around the sun. That black now is kind of a gray black. Well, you want to turn that down until you get a nice black background. But yet you don't want to lose that prominence at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10:30 position. At 9 o'clock you can see some prominence there. So bring that brightness and the contrast where the background is fairly black without losing the prominence. And then to finalize everything, sharpness default is at 2. So what you do is you bring that up slowly. Here's 5. This is where the magic's going to happen. Here we go. We're at 8 now. Because of that, it made certain part of the sun brighter. Let's go back to brightness and turn that down. Not too much, because what's going to happen, we're going to lose those prominence. If surface detail is what someone's looking at, well, lower that down some more, like so. The brightness, and go to saturation and lower saturation some more. If you leave it, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be overpowered by the color. Just add the right texture, slowly but surely, with the saturation. You only want to blend the color. You don't want to from black and white. Here's black and white. Saturation's off at 0. Turn that up slowly. Just add that right amount of color. If you go too much, you're bleeding. The colors are bleeding. There we go. Now we could go back to the contrast this time and increase it to make everything brighter. Now we're going to see nice detail on the sun. For $109 camera, boy oh boy, I tell you, it's not bad at all. The Micro Super is really the next accessory I think that people should acquire simply to dabble into video, especially if they do solar. Now my next step is I'm going to go get the Barlow and put that on. We're going to get close-up shots of the sun and using the Barlow. This is no Barlow at all. The solar scope is a Coronado Solar Max 260, and the camera is a MallinCam Micro Super. That's the new model we just released, and you certainly get some pretty neat result out of that. Yes, I have seen Andrew's way of as a finder, and I tell you, that little camera will do it. There's no questions about it. Although, for finder, Jack, I would go with the Micro EX. You just need that little extra sensitivity. I mean, it's not much more sensitive, slightly more. You would get expanded into the infrared. That means you'd be able to see some of the spirals and galaxies. As a finder, you'd be able to tell the difference between a stellar point and an actual galaxy, if you would ever see one through a wide field finder. I still would recommend the Micro EX for the finder, but to do imaging and stuff like that or live, I think the Super is the way to go. Okay, I'm gonna stop this for. Whoop, there you go, Rich. That's a good question, Rich. Both cameras are very similar, with one exception is the CCD sensor. The 810 from the Micro Super did require completely reconfiguration as far as gain is concerned, color balance, and things like that. The difference between both is fairly simple. Solar you'll do just fine with both. There's no question there, but for some reason to another, with the ICX 810, which is the Micro Super, you seem to avoid all infrared reception in there, and that alone seems to pinpoint the true bandwidth of the solar scope that you're going to be using. The EX will go outside of that range, and quite a lot, in fact. The EX is slightly more sensitive. There's no questions about it. But the Super, with the 810 Super head sensor, will give you a smoother image. Both chips have the same size pixels. The only difference is one of them is 2350 millivolts sensitivity. The other one is 2200 millivolts. So there's not much difference. In fact, I sent a couple of prototypes to a couple of guys for them to try out. And one guy says, oh my God, like the 810 lost sensitivity completely. And yet the four other people says, whoa, the 810 easily stacks up to the EX. Imaging wise, it approached those of a CCD sensor to do imaging. But to do solar, I'd say to go, obviously, if you want to, you know, Rich, if you want to go into slightly more serious imaging, to get a little bit better quality image, I would go with the Micro Super with the 810 sensor. It's a lot smoother. It doesn't capture as much infrared as the EX would. EX stands for extra sensitivity, basically, way up in the infrared. Now, this is good for deep sky stuff. If you get into deep sky, such as faint galaxies and things like that, obviously the EX is going to give you the advantages there. But Rich, MallinCam Jack there, Jack is right. The 810 does not show any amp glow whatsoever, simply because The chip itself does not go that far into the infrared where it's going to capture the amplifier glow inside of the CCD sensor. Electroluminescence is the problem. When you go into the infrared, you're going to pick up basically the oscillation, you're going to pick up the electroluminescence emitted from the circuitry that's on the CCD sensor itself. The EX will show that. Every time you see a camera that has a little bit of amp glow, well, you know they are very sensitive. It's not a bad thing, but some people, it really bothers them. If it tend to bother you, I would definitely go with the the micro super in this case. It really, really makes a big difference for solar. I could not get this degree of sharpness and detail with the EX on the sun. Only with the 810. Not a problem, Rich. It's my pleasure. Okay, I'm gonna go to on the other side. I'll put this on standby for a moment. I like to put a Barlow. Actually, it might help if you want to do solar. Is this for solar or lunar, Rich? Or you see, just the extra sensitivity overloads a little bit. Not overloads, but it feeds the rest of the circuitry with a stronger signal, and it'll be harder a little bit to adjust the final image. I find that the 810 is more balanced for the circuitry. But yes, you can put a IR filter, but every time you put one of those in, you cut off too much, way too much.
Away with the first place win of the competition. You can see him right there, proudly holding up that trophy. The top-ranked competitive eaters from around the country also gathered to get their fill of the New Orleans delegates.
Sounds good there, Rich. If you got any more questions, just let us know. Good morning, Bobster, Dwayne, and I think it's a bunch of other people on. Nice day today. We got some clouds, though. Contrails are very, very long. So conditions are not the best, but that seems to be pretty nice at the moment. Okay, Dwayne, just slap the camera in there and play with the buttons, and I think you'll get good results. Actually, if you're going to go in the sun, Dwayne, with any solar scopes, you're going to have to put the camera to default. In other words, do not turn the AGC on, for example, or the sense up. That's going to be turned off. Use gamma 1 if you can. You've got to desensitize the camera. This is what you need to do. Probably lunar settings would be the best. But I would do it manually until you like what you see. But there is a way. I mean, it's going to need some tinkering to get it going.
He coaches the oldest and the youngest racer in the series. This is what I wanted to do. I thought that we could get there. It's just a matter of time. 20-year-old Sage Karam started.
I do have a double stack, but right now this is not double stack. This is the 0.7. I do have another Coronado with double stack. I took it off and went back to the single stack. Simply because what we're seeing now is more than plenty. You're going to lose the prominence if you go double stack. You're going to get spectacular surface detail, and you're really going to need a sensitive camera. The EX type of camera, such as the Exterminator or the Micro EX, will certainly be of an advantage. If you got to go double stack, I go with the EX chip, which the Exterminator has, and is also available in the MallinCam Micro series.
On your side,
yeah, the Exterminator, I would lower the colors. Dwayne, if I were you, I would definitely lower the color. So if you're using a capture device, saturation is going to be turned down, all the way down. Not off, but quite low. You're going to get color bleeding, it's called. Hey, good morning, Sean. How are you today?
To bring national attention to the city and the local program, this car dons the logos of several local sponsors and the Son of a State program, which mentors fatherless boys.
And my thought was to kind of help promote the city, been talking to the CBB, trying to get out there to promote the city on a national level, trying to put charity on a national level. New Orleans is amazing. Everyone needs to know about it.
This helmet is also painted by a local performance artist, Frenchie. His race will be at 9:15 this morning in just a few
minutes. Just changing the title on top here. Next step, we're going to go set up the parlo. And after that, we're going to use the signature. The signature is something else.
Floats and bands filled the streets before its host with city officials. A big highlight of the day was the strawberry eating contest, and if you missed out on the festivities, you still have today.
By the way, Jack, good morning, Carl.
And also there will be the strawberry strut, which is a 1-mile 5K, 10K run.
Jack, by the way, the other prototype camera, I could not try it last night. But I will tonight. It's supposed to be clear tonight, earlier in the evening, and I'm going to take a bunch of pictures with that, and that'll determine when it's going to happen.
Going on this weekend, so if you're headed out to any of the festivals, here's some quick driving tips. So French Quarter Festival traffic restrictions started on Thursday and will remain until Sunday night at 9.
Later on, I'm probably going to reset up the Sotomax double stack and further experiment with. It was very, very difficult to dial in. I ended up going back to the Sotomax 260, not double stack. It's much easier to use, obviously. There's so many adjustments on the double stack system that I have. Still brand new in the box, actually. Just going to wait for warmer weather to play with this. When it's getting a little cold, it's rather difficult to do proper adjustments. Here, we're just going to lower that a little bit. There is a really nice prominence on the left, nothing too big, and some at about 10:30 position and 9:30 position or so. Turn on the brightness here, we'll be able to see that. Yeah. I was thinking to use 2 Barlows and give it a try on that, and see if we get some really, really close up. I miss having the close up of the prominence. Oh, Sean, I tell you, it's I swear by those. Sean, I tried them all, from day start to to lunch and Coronado, you name it. Whatever it was. Even I got Thousand Oaks, the Thousand Oak H Alpha, which I really like because I was able to use a 16-inch on that sucker, and I was able to get them solar flares full image scale. You wouldn't see the surface, all you'd see is the so I really, really like that. But although it's only 0.9 angstrom, I think it is, I've tried them all, and I keep going back to the Coronado 60 for some reason. I got a 40 as well. It's not a PST, it's an actual 40 Coronado too. This is before they stopped making them. I've got also the Coronado calcium cage, just like yours. I really like that little scope. I've got the 90 as well, and I got the 60 like this one with double stack. And I keep going back to this one somehow, Sean. It gives me that clarity that I'm looking for, the detail that I'm looking for. It's done it as a smoother image, more, I can explain to you. I get to pull out the details that I need to see with this. Everything is visible. Other ones just don't show that. They do, but I mean, they're kind of fuzzy. They're not bang on the focus. If you try to focus it, it's just not right. And I don't know, you could say I'm anal about it a bit, with good reasons. A bit fussy about it, but it is what it is. No, not yet, Jack. Actually, Brian at KW called me up and said he's about to put an order for the first time with these guys, and I nearly gave him the go, but we're going to keep the funds for what's coming out from MallinCam. I'll wait for that. I'll wait to see those those new optical tubes coming in. That's going to prove to be very, very interesting. Okay, I'm going to go remove the camera here, and we are going to put the Barlow in there, possibly 2 Barlows. I haven't tried 2 Barlows on that specific the Micro Super yet, and I'd be just curious to see what it's going to give us for results. So I'll be right back, folks. You're going to see me do some adjustments a little bit, and the scope's going to shake. 'Cause I use a rear button. I like the rear buttons. I know you guys like the software. I like to interact with the scope and the camera, so there's nothing like touching it. You know, you basically do the adjustment. I like those buttons anyways. That's the bottom line. So I'll be right back.
2015 GMC Sierra SLT. That's an $8,000 total discount on Sierra right now at Crown or CrownBuickGMC.com.
Called the slaughter of Armenians 100 years ago by the Ottoman Empire, the first genocide of the 20th century. Experts say this comment will definitely anger Turkey, which has long denied the deaths as a genocide. Pope Francis made the pronouncement at the start of a Mass Sunday in the Armenian Catholic rite at St. Peter's Basilica, honoring the centenary. And hip-hop artist Nelly was arrested Saturday on felony drug charges. A Tennessee state trooper pulled over Nelly's tour bus because it did not display the proper decals for the Department of Transportation and fuel taxes. Troopers said they smelled marijuana, so they performed a probable cause search, which led to the discovery of a small amount of crystal meth, several handguns, and other drug paraphernalia. 6 people were on the bus at the time of the arrests. A small plane crashed into an icy Lake Champlain in Vermont, and officials say 2 people were on board when it crashed and survived. The pilot and a passenger were apparently practicing flying and were doing maneuvers. Fire officials aren't sure if they deliberately attempted to drop down and touch the ice. The plane has been stuck.
The battery thing is flashing, so should I leave it plugged in?
Injuries to report. A Washington shooting.
The battery thing is flashing.
The battery light.
Saturday turned out to be a suicide. Richard Reed tells us authorities say an unidentified man with a backpack, a rolling suitcase, and a protest sign took his own life.
Yeah, maybe the battery's just charged. Let it.
Children watched.
Okay.
It was a total, heavily armed lockdown at the U.S. Capitol.
It didn't sound like a gunshot to me. It sounded like a balloon pop.
Police sealing off the Capitol and the Visitor Center, ordering staffers to shelter in place.
It made me nervous, yeah. You're not secure any longer.
An urgent police and fire response after a single gunshot rang out just after 1 Saturday afternoon.
50 people, 60 people easily up there, and everybody just started scrambling.
Robert Bishop was snapping this selfie close to a fountain near the Capitol's western base when he heard that shot.
He had just walked out and just walked right up. And like I said, when I heard it and I turned and I saw him fall, it was just an odd place to do it.
An off-duty U.S. Capitol police officer spotted the man's backpack and carry-on suitcase and ordered people back.
Because of the packages that were nearby him, we obviously locked down the Capitol.
Bishop says after the shot, he saw no movement from the man. He says he saw bomb technicians pull only clothing from the suitcase.
It's a tragedy that somebody would do that in, the midst of so much beauty here.
The FBI, MPD, and other agencies trying to learn why the man carrying a protest sign about taxing the 1% would do this.
I tell my kids, we don't live in fear of these type of things. It can happen anywhere, anytime, and we can't let it change who we are and how we operate.
Investigators say the incident has no apparent links to terrorism.
And the day just getting started, but so too is the rainfall.
Yeah, Bree, you hear all of the dogs barking outside.
Heavy rain at times.
So you want to go out there and bark with them? Have a sing-along?
Do you feel like moving?
She doesn't seem like she's moving very much. Let's see what the radar shows. Radar shows green.
Well, that's better than red and blue and purple.
This
Yeah, they just show green. They don't show any. They just show rain, nothing violent.
What a drive. Incredible country.
Oh, I
Really
need to
amazing.
get her
Music going.
police stuff out of the pink bag in the truck.
I'm exactly at the prime spot to see the comet.
Time for the pill. It's time for okay.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, we are back. Wow, wow, wow. This is very, very, very nice. Did not expect that at all. Did some adjustment of the camera. Whoa. I wish you folks would see what it looks on the other side. It's just amazing to see the clarity on a live monitor instead of the internet here. Very unfortunate that it cannot be reproduced here, but whoa. Okay, let me touch up a little bit some of the adjustments here we're going to need to do. This is with the Barlow 2.5 times MallinCam Barlow, the programmatic one. And it's the shorty one, and it's pretty well what you need. This type of scope. Okay, we had a really nice view of the prominence on the other side, and I cannot get here for some reason. So, oh yeah, here she is. Wow. Oh, this is interesting. This is very, very nice. Most impressive.
And again, some patchy dense fog out there this morning, making things a little dicey on that commute. Extra time this morning. Slick roadways out there. Here's the satellite and the radar showing.
Holy smokers, this is good. No, I really like what I'm seeing here.
Getting rain right now.
Let me touch up a little bit of adjustments here.
This afternoon and through the morning hours as well. As we zoom down on the metro area, we do see some light shower activity right along I-70.
Wow, Jack, not sure if you're recording this.
We have French Quarter Fest kicking off once again at 11 o'clock this morning. Dry right now in French Quarter proper, but areas to the south around Canal Street. We're starting
oh, gee whiz, this is
there's some light shower activity.
Very, very, very nice.
Well, we have the Indy Grand Prix taking place today, and yes, the showers have moved in. You can see around the Cole Boulevard.
That's incredible. This is just one Barlow.
Have that wet weather already on the west bank.
I love that Coronado. That's I could get up and go hug it. Wow, this is nice. Not only we see the prominence, but if you look lower towards lower left, you see some very minute adjustments. I mean, detail as well. Some smaller prominence rising. Yeah, this is the Barlow is the MallinCam 2.5, the shorty one that we have. I've tried everything from teleview all the way up to the highest end that we could find. And when we stumbled on this very specific one, we asked the company to make them slightly different for us, and they did. And especially for CCD sensors, one of the lenses is flatter, basically, to give you a better, flatter image, field of view. And that's the result we get with it. It's just amazing, amazing. Yes, Jack, you're absolutely right. The upper right limb, you could actually see. Oh man, I wish you guys would see what it looks like right now on the monitor on the other side.
Around the New Orleans area, 5+ inches potentially through Wednesday. And unfortunately, rain chances continue. So here's your event planner for today. French Quarter Fest showing the rain chances at 70%, and that continues through the afternoon.
Wow, that little micro really, really.
Rain and storms picking up. 30. Lots of moisture, several impulses riding in.
This is so cool.
Will continue to be a possibility. This is 2:30 in the afternoon.
Frankly, I didn't expect that, but this is good. You know.
In a short period of time, we'll see some more rain activity. Thankfully, through tonight, yes, we'll get a break. Scattered rain will turn isolated. Temperatures in the upper 60s.
That's fantastic.
Only so the atmosphere can get reset once again.
Try to.
On Monday, locally heavy rain concerns once again. 73 to 79 degrees those high temperatures as we move to the start of the week. Temperatures in the region in the 60s and 70s with cloud cover and rain. It's 71 degrees at the airport in Kenner. Winds are south-southeast at 3 miles per hour. And again, consistent temperatures area-wide. Apache fog out there. Some improvement at times, but again, we'll see up and down fluctuation of visibilities throughout the morning. Temperatures throughout the day will be generally in the 70s. Tomorrow back to near 80 degrees, but 7 whole days.
Yeah, my settings.
Rainfall.
I'm not sure. Okay, if you go to the lens, Carl, it's a good question. Let me think for a minute on top of my head there, because I went through the menu for that. First of all, the 3D DNR is turned off completely. The AGC is turned off completely. You got to use the camera with the least amount of built-in processing. I'm a video purist, so what I want to do is get what the camera can give without any enhancement. See you later, Sean.
Mallin, the executive director of Bike Easy. Thank you so much for coming in this morning and telling us all about Bike Easy.
And Carl, yes, the adjustments. AGC off for sure. 3D off. The 3D noise reduction off completely. That's on the MallinCam Micro Super, or EX will give you the same thing, but I think the Super has the edge on it. The Sense Up is also turned off, AGC off, and below you've got a menu called Lens. The lens is at 1/1000 of a second. So that is if you're going to use a Barlow. If you're not going to use a Barlow, you got to go up to 1/4000th of a second. But with the Barlow, because the image is dimmer, you need to have a brighter image, and you need to put this at 1/1000. I turned up the sharpness all the way up on the camera, and so far the noise is reasonable. Usually turning up sharpness on the camera always bring noise, and obviously here it's more or less under control. If you would see noise, you'd see on the limb all kinds of lines and all kinds of unwanted artifacts. Here we can actually really see those little minute prominences on the limb all over the place. Okay, let me, and that's about it for adjustments, Carl. If you want, I could get up and turn on the menu, and you can always see it.
So you want to stop at stop signs, go with the traffic. Yeah.
I'm just going to turn up. Now, the final adjustment is done with MCAP. Brightness, contrast, hue, saturation, sharpness. If you don't get that going right, you'll never get it to look like what it is. You got to pull out what the camera is giving at the moment, at the input of the capture device or the monitor that I have on the other side. And using MCAP for the capture device, because they don't respond the same way as a monitor would, you need to fine-tune the properties of MCAP, which includes the brightness, contrast, hue, saturation, and sharpness. And this is what we're doing right now. Playing a little bit with the brightness. Contrast is fairly, not the highest point, of course, but it makes everything brighter on the contrast if you turn it up too high. I really like what I'm seeing here at the moment as far as on the limp details are just phenomenal. Wow. And of course saturations turn all the way down. If you put a default, this is what it's going to look like. I personally don't like that. Here's one thing that you could do. Put saturation at default. As you can see, the limb is red, and by increasing the saturation, we're bringing the colors up. Go to the hue and pinpoint where the prominence are going to be the brightest. That means not the one that we're looking at now, but the one above it towards upper right. Adjust the hue until that specific prominence pops right out a lot more. So right now I'm playing with the hue to make it more red. I should have not touched it. You know what they say, It works. Leave well enough alone. No, I had to go touch it. Now it's screwed up. That's okay. We're going to play with it here, and I'm trying to get the best detail I can, or the best red out of that faint prominence. And then after that, you go back to saturation and lower that color noise. You could go black and white, but you're going to lose a lot of the details, I find. Just add a little bit of color, only using the saturation. It's all about balancing it right. You got to find that's correct, Carl. This is a non-EX. This is the MallinCam Micro Super. It's a non-EX sensor in there. No amp glow, no nothing. This is really, really good. Price is right on it too. Yeah, Super had two. You're correct on that, Jack. Thanks. This is ICX 810 sensor. Oh, this is pretty neat, actually, folks. Just trying to bring the edges here. It's going to play with the just some adjustment with the saturation a bit and the hue. I want to get the right balance I had earlier on, where the limb was actually red and the rest of the sun was kind of an orange, yellow orange.